Ambassador, you weren't on the call, were you? The president, you didn't listen on President Trump's call and President Zelensky's call?
I did not.
You've never talked with Chief of Staff Mulvaney?
I never did.
You never met the president?
That's correct.
You had 3 meetings again with Zelensky and it didn't come up.
And 2 of those they had never heard about, as far as I know.
And
there was no reason for it.
President Zelensky never made an announcement. This is what I can't believe, and you're their star witness.
Welcome back to Harvard. That was Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan trying to undercut damning testimony from Ambassador Bill Taylor by arguing it wasn't firsthand information. A top attack dog for President Trump, Jordan was handpicked to join the Intelligence Committee last week in preparation for the public impeachment hearings this week, as Republicans mounted defenses of the president that relied mostly on diversion. The committee's top Republican, Devin Nunes, for example, of California, another Trumpster, said Democrats were trying to overturn the results of the 2016 election.
Anyone familiar with the Democrats' scorched earth war against President Trump would not be surprised to see all the typical signs that this is a carefully orchestrated media smear campaign. The main performance, the Russia hoax, has ended, and you've been cast in the low-rent Ukrainian sequel.
Others pointed to the White House memo of President Trump's July phone call with the Ukrainian president to say it showed evidence of pressure. Well, Texas Congressman John Radcliffe, who was at one point President Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, argued that the phone call was no big deal.
In this impeachment hearing today, where we impeach presidents for treason or bribery or other high crimes, where is the impeachable offense in that call? Are either of you here today to assert there was an impeachable offense in that call? Shout it out. Anyone?
Mr. Radcliffe, if I can just respond, let me just reiterate.
I've got 1 minute left.
I know you only got a minute left. Mr. Radcliffe, I would just like to say that I'm not here to do anything having to do with to decide about impeachment. That is not what either of us are here to do. This is your job.
Well, I'm joined right now by David Jolly, former Republican congressman from Florida, and Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com. Congressman, let me ask you about this performance by your former erstwhile members of your party. It was certainly an interesting show. Everyone seemed to be doing their own thing. I'm not sure what Nunes was up to. He didn't seem to be a leader of the pack here, because what he was doing was this crazy peripheral stuff about Hunter Biden and Ukraine 2016 and trying to get the whistleblower exposed. I mean, none of that had to do with the conversations President Trump had with Zelensky or the whole cabal to shake this guy down for dirt on Biden. He just was walking around the far fringes of the topic.
Yeah, let's deconstruct some of these arguments. You're right. Nunes was feeding the conspiracy theory base that works among some Republican circles. Nunes also opened by saying this is just the next step of what the Democrats tried to do to Trump during the Mueller investigation. Well, Devin Nunes, it wasn't the Democrats that launched the Mueller investigation. It was Trump's DOJ. And as for Jim Jordan saying that in the meetings with Zelensky wasn't aware. The crime was not in Zelensky being aware. The crime was in the conspiracy. The crime was in the scheme. And all of the corroborating evidence supports the fact that Trump was scheming to withhold aid. And as for John Radcliffe, it wasn't just about the Trump phone call. That is a distraction. It is about a pattern of behavior, a consciousness of guilt, and an effort by Donald Trump that we now know was in direct contact with Ambassador Sondland to, in fact, extract this concession from the Ukraine president. What we saw today was not a GOP interested in their oath. Even when they were pursuing a case to try to deconstruct the witnesses, even when they were chipping away, if you will, making the hearsay argument, they weren't acting as fact finders, Chris. They were acting as defense attorneys. That is not their role to defend the President of the United States. Their role today was get to the facts of impeachable activity.
Jason.
Yeah, I thought it was ridiculous. And you can go down the line, as David did, but you look at Jim Jordan and his sort of consistency, besides his own credibility and what he... Yeah. None of us really want to look at Jim Jordan because he can't see things very well in his own background. But here's what the most galling thing. His big argument, you have these meetings, and no one mentioned it. I'm sorry, how many people being blackmailed go running to the very same government saying, I'm being blackmailed by your boss, President Trump? Like, that's not going to happen. So his core argument didn't make much sense. The one weakness or the one sort of failing I saw some of the Democrats have is when Republicans kept saying, well, eventually they got the funding, they got the funding, they got the funding. The Democrats should have pointed out it didn't happen until the whistleblower came forward.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I thought was a mistake.
Does that do any good, though? I've noticed one rhetorical flourish with this crowd now, and it's new in politics. The old game in politics, as you know, is ignore the question when you go on television. Say what you give your speech parts. These guys ignore the corrections.
Right.
They ignore that what they said 2 weeks ago doesn't work anymore, and they keep saying it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Republicans also blasted Democrats for not bringing the whistleblower in to testify, despite the fact that lawyers for the anonymous individual have offered to submit written testimony. Here they go.
Now, there is one witness that they won't bring in front of us. They won't bring in front of the American people. And that's the guy who started it all, the whistleblower.
I say to my colleague, I'd be glad to have the person who started it all come in and testify. President Trump is welcome to take a seat right there.
Well, that's so true. It's not just a great counterpunch. It is about Trump. The whistleblower just said, you got to watch what happened here. We found out what happened there. The whistleblower is irrelevant now.
It's funny, when you have a party that keeps making the argument, the president should have a right to face his accuser, here's your chance, and then he doesn't want to show up, right? Like, this could all be solved by the president or Mick Mulvaney or several other people who they're refusing to let come forward, which kind of suggests to me they don't really have an answer or an explanation.
David Chow, your thoughts in the end. What is the Republican Party goal here? Is it just mishigas, just create confusion, get a blur, prevent anybody from focusing on what they could learn from the Democratic case today? Is it just that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Look, they're playing defense to a 2020 strategy to prevent erosion of their base. They're trying to prevent any strong hit from being landed. Here's where I think there is an opportunity for Democrats that I saw today that may have been missing, and it's this. An impeachment argument requires the constitutional case and the political case. The constitutional case is the facts we're hearing. The president wanted an investigation into the Bidens. And the constitutional case is about Trump. The political case is about the American people and about the voters. And I think the case that Democrats could make to the voters is, look, Trump tried to steal the next election from you. He tried to cheat by this next election by using foreign aid to dig up dirt on his opponent and tip the balance of the election in his favor. And secondly, voter, he jeopardized America's national security, not the Ukraine's. And the reason why is by withholding aid, he emboldened Russian aggression. And Russia is our enemy, and the president didn't care. Make the case about the American people as much as you have to make it about Donald Trump's behavior.
I should write that article for a major paper. I'd love to read that again. I love the way you said that. It is about the country, and it's what country do you want to live in? And we're living in this one. David Jolly, thank you. And Jason Johnson is always up next. Did the Democrats make a strong case for impeachment?